Hey guys, 3 and Out has its own YouTube channel, and we plan on doing coward type numbers. Here's the key. If you're watching this, you like our content, make sure you subscribe. Subscribe to the page, leave a comment, interact with our stuff. We do stuff on this page on a daily basis. 365. 3 and Out podcast right here on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe right now. Okay, let's bang out a couple mailbags. You guys know the drill. At John Middlekauff. At John Middlekauff is the Instagram. Fire in those direct messages. At John Middlekauff, 2 Fs, fire in the DMs. I don't understand the Russell Wilson contract anymore. Last year it was he's guaranteed $1 bazillion. They're stuck with him. And now they're benching him so they don't have to pay him. Which is it? Well, they truly guaranteed him. I have to go back and look at the contract. But whatever the number is, true guarantees, doesn't matter whether you're injured or not. That's the money that you're getting no matter what. And then the moment after a couple years, remember, they paid him 2 years ago. It starts having these kickers. Like, I can cut you, but if you pass a physical, if you can't pass a physical, injury guarantees. So, like, once you get to a certain point of like the $250 million of the contract, instead of like the 150 or 160 or whatever the number is, then it starts having these yearly kickers. Right? It's why that free agency date for a lot of players is so big. I haven't even done a deep dive into the contract, but like when I sign you to, let's just pick even numbers, $200 million, right? I give you a 5-year, $200 million contract. So you're making, what would that be? $40 million a year. But I only guarantee you $100 million. True guarantees. So like the moment you sign that contract, and let's say your signing bonus is $50 million. So you got a $200 million contract, $100 million is guaranteed, and you got a $50 million signing bonus. So the moment you sign the contract, I think it's within 2 weeks, you get $50 million. Now, you're technically like a W-2 employee, so maybe you get whatever, $30 million into your account. But that signing bonus comes through. Then over the course of like 12 or 18 months, you get that $100 million. So you have made $100 million. This isn't basketball or baseball where you're paid even numbers every year. Contracts are very manipulated in football. And then that separate $100 million, that non-truly guaranteed money, is a lot of times for injury. So if in the second year you shatter your leg, like they're kind of stuck with you. So it's still very, incentivized for you. Like if you play and get injured, that's kind of on the team. But if you're not, I still can have somewhat of a clean break. Now, the reason the dead money is so big is because when, even in that example I just gave you, the $100 million in guaranteed money, I amortize over the books over the 5 years. But what do? A lot of times I make it bigger in year 3, 4, and 5 than I do in year 1 and 2. But I still have to account for that money. On my salary cap, that truly guaranteed money, I have to account for like a credit card. I have to pay it at some point in time. It's why, like, when the Cowboys cut Dez and remember Tony Romo retired, they were still paying for it because they pushed it down on the books, which is smart business because you just kind of live in the moment. But the contract, it's just very complicated because it's always about guaranteed money. What are your thoughts on the Rashard Mendenhall tweet? Is that how a lot of people in the NFL talk behind closed doors? I've never heard anyone talk like that. Now, I mean, I haven't worked for a team now in a while. The internet, and I think a lot of these guys, like when you see a lot of quote unquote tweets, former players or just people on the internet, I think a lot of it is you're just bored. You're kind of living in this fucking world. There's probably a lot of misery going around in your head. I think most times when you're on a team, like people are just pretty normal. I know, I think some of the divisive shit that goes on social media is like people talk shit about that stuff in a team sense. It's like, bro, put your phone down. Go fucking live life. I think most people reacted to it how a lot of people were like making fun of it. It's stupid. Would be my ultimate take. I always kind of like Rashard Mendenhall as a player. I thought he was pretty good early on in his career with Pittsburgh. Hey, John, I'm a new fan of the pod and love listening to you and Colin. My question for you is, should the Cleveland Browns consider trading up into the late first round of the draft to take quarterback like Penix or Bo Nix? I understand Watson's contract is a massive albatross, which is impossible to get out of under the way the CBA is, but it's a time to start planning for the future.
Tough one, man. I think you're kind of stuck. I don't think you can trade up for a quarterback, especially because his contract, we just talked about it, the $230 million is the way it impacts your books. He has a massive, massive cap hit. So his cap hit the next 3 years, you have to draft cheap labor. And the only way you get that is have the picks. And you trade up, you lose a bunch of picks. So I would say no on that one. Obviously, the Colts had the plan to start Richardson for the year. With that being said, do you think they win more or less games if he didn't get hurt? Also, do you think Minshew will be viewed as a bright starter on a high-end backup this offseason? I think it's impossible to play the game on Anthony Richardson. I think if you were going to take an educated guess, you said you guys would have won less games, assuming you're a Colts fan. Just because rookie quarterback, I would say less. I mean, the guy wasn't winning in college. So to think that he would just immediately succumb, you'd win 8, 9, 10 games in the pros, I think you would have won less games. Now, I think big picture, long term, it would have benefited them greatly to get those reps, to have that tape, to have that teaching process, to have the ups and the downs. But I think Minshew 100% is probably a better player. I don't think probably is a better player today, right? If you had to win a football game yesterday, you would take Gardner Minshew over Anthony Richardson. Now, over the next 5 years, not even a question. It's why they drafted the guy. I think Minshew made a lot of money this year. I think someone could give him like 1 year, $15 million to be a bridge starter. I think he could be a backup quarterback in the NFL for a long time moving forward. Question for the mailbag. At what point does every quarterback getting bigger contracts come to an end? It seems almost impossible for teams to win once a quarterback is making $35 to $45 million. Mahomes and the Chiefs this year is an example. Always enjoy your content. Well, I don't think it's a great example because they're going to end up winning 10 or 11 games. I think the problem is they would probably like a couple redos on some skill guys, right? I think if they get some redos, there's just a couple redos in the draft, right? I think they would take a Laporta with the last pick in the draft last year in the first round. And definitely Sky Moore is a situation. They draft him in the second round. When you just need to draft to bear your fruit. And when it doesn't, produce, you're in a little trouble. But the Chiefs are still, if they win these last 2 games, they're going to win 11 games. So, if that's the disaster, I think Mahomes is a little bit of an outlier. Same thing with Josh Allen. Both those teams are going to win 10, 11 games. I think the problem you get is, and this is my issue with Purdy. Everyone's like, they don't have to pay Purdy yet. The moment we got to start paying Purdy, let's see his body of work. Trevor Lawrence, under no, when I see, what are they going to do? Not pay him? To me, Trevor Lawrence is not getting a new contract this year. Guys after their third year that got new contracts were Josh Allen, were Patrick Mahomes. Lamar Jackson didn't even get one. No, I'm not paying Trevor Lawrence. We're playing this fucking thing out. So we don't always have to rush to pay everybody. I just do not believe that. Prove it. And now you get in weird situations, but the Giants played it out and then they still gave him money. So I think you just need to be more prudent. Listen, when you have an all-time great player, you got no choice. Say the Cardinals did it with Kyler Murray. It was after 3 seasons. Can't we just play one more? Can't we just take a deep breath? What's our rush? I think everyone always rushes into it. As a lifelong Lions fan, I am ecstatic about the direction of the team. When I actually watch them play, I see 2 big weaknesses, edge and corner. Do you think with one more good draft and wise free agency moves, the Lions could be the favorites in the NFC next year? Well, I think as long as Jared Goff's your quarterback, you would have to just hit some home runs because it's always going to be somewhat of a limitation. But your team going into next year is stupid stacked. All these guys that are good on your team are all coming back. All the alignment, all the impact offensive players. Aiden Hutchinson, you would think Campbell, your first-round pick, is going to be better. One way I think you can help, because it's hard to get edge rushers, right? And if let's say you're in the second round of the playoffs, you're usually not going to find TJ Watt in the second round, or in the 20s, right? I think if you improve the defensive tackle spot, right, it doesn't necessarily have to be an edge. I just improve the defensive line to go with Aiden Hutchinson, right? If you can just find a legit interior guy to go with him, it can boost you dramatically. In corner, sometimes there's a little luck involved. Can you find a guy in the second or third round that just can be an impact player? I don't think you need to draft a star corner in the first round because you never know. Like you can find starters all over the draft. I would draft a couple of them, couple DBs, and just hope you hit on one of them. I would always, though, invest early on in the lines, and I would just keep doubling down there. Double down on the defensive line and load up on offense. You'll be fine. Now, it's just going to come down, can you trust Jared Goff in the biggest moments? I've always been a fan. I'm biased. I mean, I've watched him since he was in college. I've followed his career really since his senior year in high school. But it can't, he's not the same guy outside. That's not really arguable. And there's just, are you just 100% confident in the guy? I think that's a fair thing to ask. But ultimately, like, what a time to be alive if you're a Lions fan. Now, your basketball team might lose 50 straight games, even though your coach is making $75 million. But your football team's really fun. And, still has a chance to be the number 1 overall seed. I hope you guys win a playoff game. Because I do think if somehow that you ended up playing the Rams in the first round and lost, that would suck. That would really be a kick in the you-know-what. To have the type season you have and have Matt Stafford come into your house and do that to you, like that would feel like a little unfair. Honestly, it would. Even though I want to see it. Not necessarily you guys lose. I just want to see the game. You guys easily could win that game as well. But that'd be, of all the teams to lose to, that'd be tough. At least, especially in the first round, home playoff game. You haven't won a playoff game in 30 plus years. But yeah, I'd be very, very excited.